So let's start at the beginning. We're in Ontario. We've been planning on being nomads for the last year and a half, 2 years. We've been making those plans. So we started getting rid of a lot of our stuff. We'd already had our mind around the idea of not having a place to live. So the family heirlooms we've been passing off to nieces and nephews over the last 18 months or so, trying to find places for all the stuff that we knew we didn't, that was too nice just to get rid of, and that we didn't want to have with us any longer or store. And so anyway, then COVID came along. The plans changed. We were concerned about a second shutdown. A second wave is coming. Our 3 kids are in BC. We don't want to spend the winter in Ontario worrying about them and being too far away. We make a snap decision to move to British Columbia. We went online and found a property in the upper Okanagan Valley that was available for rent that seemed to meet our needs. It looked good. It wasn't really close to any of the kids, but it was central locations we could make a scoot to everybody if we had to. And it was 90% furnished, which worked out really well because we'd already started getting rid of a lot of stuff. And because it was furnished, we didn't have to bring a lot of stuff with us, but there was some stuff we wanted to bring. So we could buy a van and put everything in the van and move it, and we knew we could do that. So then it became a problem of buying a van because in September and October, they were hard to find. They weren't making them at the moment because of COVID. Production was down, availability was low. The American dollar was really strong compared to the Canadian dollar, so Americans were coming across the border and scooping up the used inventory. They were paying more for used than you could buy a new one for if you could find one. It was really hard. We missed 2 vans in a matter of 7 days just because we couldn't get there fast enough to buy them. And then this one came available on a lot in Willowdale, which is about an hour and a half away from where we lived. I heard about it. I phoned the dealer. I said, I'll buy it. Here's my credit card number. Hold it for me. I'll be there in 2 hours. I didn't test drive it. We just looked at it. Said it's a 2018 Ram Promaster 3500 extended body, which is exactly what we're looking for. The seats aren't right. It had about 75,000 kilometers on it. Still some warranty. I said, I'm not even going to test drive it. Just write it up. I'll take it. I want it. Done. And while we were doing it, someone came in and wanted to buy the van, believe it or not. They were just hard to find. Anyway, we got it back to Coburg. We had a lot of stuff to do. We had a couple of apartments we had to finish up and get rented, had to find tenants, had to get water meters, hydro meters, gas meters. We had still stuff we had to obviously get rid of and sort of our own and get packed. I wish I'd taken a lot more photos, but I didn't. It was just that life was such a zoo. We were working for probably working 20 hours a day. There was 5 weeks between the time we made the decision and the time we left. A lot to do, but quite an adventure, but a lot to do. We loaded up and we went to Home Depot and bought medium-sized boxes, and we went to a Metro grocery store and got apple boxes. I mean, I don't know how many trips in them, but that's all we used was apple boxes and Home Depot boxes. In our space, we mapped out on the floor with tape how big the van cab would be, and we knew how high and how wide it was. And we started, as we loaded stuff, we started packing the van inside basically to see how it was all going to fit. Had all the heavy stuff on the bottom, all the light stuff on the top. And what I did was we came in at the back of the van, we put 2 rows of boxes floor to ceiling, filled all the little nooks and crannies, and then I put a mattress up against it and then winched that to the side of the van. Put it all in nice and snug and tight, so that was a zone. Then we did it again, put another layer in and winched all that up nice and tight. And then in the front of the cab, we put our dresser, our 6-board boxes, and our bigger furniture, our buffet, thinking that we would pile everything in here nice and snug and tight and try and leave space, if possible, right behind the seat for the mattress to sit, if there was enough room, so that we could sleep in the van. That was the idea. We wanted to have as little interaction as possible coming across the country with people, because we had to self-isolate when we got here anyway, but we wanted to be sure we were really careful. And that worked out. We got it all done. We had the mattress up, our 8-inch memory foam up on top, and thinking that's great. We can open the door, climb up, close the door, we'll be good for the night. But the reality of it was we couldn't climb up. It was too high. By the time you opened the door, you couldn't. And then you couldn't close the door either. It was impossible. But we found that because we had the bench seat, we could take the center headrest off and just scurry over the seat right onto the mattress like it was an 18-wheeler. And it was an amazing setup. Worked out really well. We left on a Wednesday morning. Tuesday night, we slept in the van in our driveway because we didn't want to load the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. And we slept in the van in the driveway, got up in the morning, went inside to use the washroom, get a cup of tea, and then we locked it all up, and headed out, and we drove north. There's two routes when you're leaving Ontario and heading west. The one is goes along the shore of Lake Ontario, or I'm sorry, Lake Superior, up through Wawa and Lake Superior, and the other one goes north through Cochrane. We've done both, and we knew that the Lake Superior route is absolutely stunning. It's pretty, it's beautiful, but it's up and down and up and down and up and down, and every time you go down, that's where the towns are. There's a stoplight at the bottom of the hill. And our van was loaded to the point where the tires were pinching down, and we had a U-Haul, a 5x8 covered, 5x5x8 covered U-Haul trailer behind us that was fully loaded as well. The van was working hard, and we didn't want to do the up and down. So we went the northern route through Cochrane, and then around through Kapuskasing and Hearst and all that stuff. It's a flatter ride. It looks a little bit longer on a map, but I've done it both ways, and it's honestly about the same time. And it's a much flatter ride. It's easier on the vehicle. We headed north, 4 o'clock in the morning. We hit Cochrane around 12:30, and I had some business I had to do, and the internet connections up that way are so weak. We had to stay in Cochrane for almost an hour and a half, which was longer than we expected. We'd planned a 15-minute stop in Cochrane to get gas and to pee. And that put us behind schedule. So we worked our way across, heading west. And when we got to Long Lac, the next stop after Long Lac is really Nipigon, which is 3.5, 4 hours away. And it was raining that night. It was our first day on the road. We were really tired. It was late. So we decided to stay in Long Lac. And now, I've had people say, Dave, how do you know you're going the right way? What's the right route? And I tell you this, if you get to Cochrane and turn left, and if you're on a paved road heading west, you're on the right place. I mean, there's only so many ways you can go. Just be on a paved road heading west, you can't go wrong. We spent the night in Long Lac, and what we did was just pull into a parking lot on the north side of the road, a truck stop, pulled in on this gravel parking lot. It was pouring rain. We scurried up into the back, dropped a curtain down, got under the blankets, and it was cozy as could be. We slept for 8 hours, just like rocks, had a great rest. Got up in the morning, it was 3 below zero. And it was surprisingly cozy in the van. It wasn't cold at all. I turned on the truck, and within 4 or 5 minutes, the cab was warm. We got down and drove away. It was amazing. Made our first stop as soon as we could, so Kathy could use the washroom. We got a cup of coffee. I was trying to use the bushes as much as I could, again, because I didn't want to interact with as anybody I didn't have to interact with. We drove on, and we drove all that day. We had our cooler with us with lunch and stuff, and we drove all that day, stopping only for gas and a washroom, and we ended up in Brandon, Manitoba. That night, we parked in a parking lot right on the highway at a gas station. We filled up with gas, pulled into the corner, climbed up in the back, dropped the sheet down, and got under the covers and slept for 8 hours solid. It was a great sleep. Woke up, it was 10 below zero. The cab, the ceiling had diamonds on it because there was so much frost inside. And that particular spot had a washroom open, so we got out, used the washroom, got a cup of coffee, got in the van, started driving west again. Around Moose Jaw, we hit snow. And from Moose Jaw to Calgary, we drove through a blizzard. It was an adventure. It was interesting. We got to Calgary late, and it was Kathy's birthday, and we planned on spending the night all along in a hotel because of her birthday. We checked into a Sandman hotel on the west side of the city. We went downstairs to the dining room for a birthday dinner and went back up and had a sleep. And to be honest, it was the worst sleep we had the whole time on the road. The hotel was the worst sleep we had. Woke up the next morning, and there was snow on the ground, about 3 inches of snow on the ground in Calgary. We went out, got the truck started up and scraped off and headed west again. And I was concerned, to be honest, because the truck was heavy, and it had snow tires that met the legal criteria for British Columbia, but they weren't good snow tires. They were the absolute minimum, and I was concerned. And as we headed west, we stopped in Canmore for a cup of coffee, and I was stopped at a red light, and I started to slide sideways when I hit the gas. The truck was not grabbing very well, and I was concerned about it. But as we headed west past Banff, and by the time we hit Lake Louise, the road had dried up. The things had changed. The snow had disappeared. The road was still a little bit wet. By the time we hit the glacier park, the road was dry. So we got up and down over the passes. We weren't passing anybody, and either going up or coming down. We were being very careful, but we made it. We got to Revelstoke, And we knew when we hit Revelstoke we were done. The hard part was over. We were going to make it. So we stopped and had a really nice, relaxing lunch and walked around the town a little bit. Went to a liquor store and got some gas and just took about an hour and indulged ourselves and poked along. And then we got back in the van and made the last run to Hidden Lake Road. And we got here about 2 o'clock and started getting ready to unpack right away. It was 3.5 days on the road from Ontario to the top of the Okanagan Valley. It was $368 in gas, which I was quite pleased with. The truck was really working hard. We were really heavily loaded. We were cozy all the way. We stopped, interacted with probably 12 people right across the country. And then we got here. We were going to self-isolate while we unpacked. It was excellent. It was a real adventure and a great way to start this adventure for us. I'd recommend it to anybody. We had a lot of fun. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. But it worked out really well. So now we're here and we're ready for the next part of the adventure.